Hello, and welcome back to the guided reading of Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. On the last video, we left off at the end of Scene 4 of Act 2. We are going to carry on with Scene 5 and Scene 6 in Act 2 for our lesson today. So just to review what happened at the end of Scene 4 from yesterday's lesson, we had Romeo and the nurse talking about the plan that Romeo has devised to marry Juliet this afternoon. So he says, have her come to Friar Lawrence's cell under the impression of going for confession. When she arrives there, she will have confession, but then she will also be married to me. He's also, remember, sending one of his men to meet the nurse to build a rope ladder so that he can climb up into Juliet's balcony to be with her this evening as man and wife. So in Scene 5, we are in Capulet's orchard where we're going to see Juliet walking around, and she is, of course, very anxious because she is waiting for the nurse to return on news as to whether or not Romeo wants to marry her, because she does not yet know, remember. So Juliet is just waiting for the nurse's return. She's going to tell us how long the nurse has been gone, and she's going to express some of her concerns, some of her worries, some of her anxieties. So we're going to go ahead and start with Scene 5. If you would, go ahead and pause me now and read to line 20. Okay, so here Juliet is kind of berating the nurse, right? She's very frustrated that the nurse has not yet returned, and she tells us how long the nurse has been gone on line 10. She says, of this day's journey and from 9 till 12 is 3 long hours. So she's saying that the nurse has been gone already for 3 hours, and she's very anxious for the nurse to return so that she can find out what Romeo has said to her request. And then we see on the last few lines of this section, we see the nurse and Peter enter, and Juliet says, oh, honey nurse, what news? Hast thou met with him? Send thy man away. And so Peter is sent away so that the nurse and Juliet can talk privately. So Juliet is very excited to hear what happens. Now, in this next section that I'm going to have you read, the nurse is really going to be messing with me, Juliet. I am very anxious to find out the news, and the nurse is giving every excuse in the book to not tell me, right? So if you would, go ahead and read the rest of Scene 4. Pause me now. Okay, so the nurse comes in and she's looking all sad, and Juliet says, oh Lord, why lookest thou so sad, right? And then the nurse starts to complain, and she comes up with every excuse in the book. On line 127, she said, fie, how my bones ache. And on line 31, she says, do you not see that I am out of breath? So she's saying, oh, I'm hurting. Oh, I'm out of breath. And Juliet is retorting with, how art thou out of breath when thou hast breath to say to me that thou art out of breath? Like, how are you out of breath when you're speaking to me to tell me that you're out of breath? And she's begging the nurse, please just tell me the news. Please tell me the news. And the nurse continues to procrastinate to tease Juliet by saying how lovely Romeo is. So lines 40 to 45, she's calling him a gentleman, saying he's a lamb, he's so sweet, he's so kind. And Juliet on line 48 finally says, but what says he of our marriage? What of that? And then the nurse again, oh, how my head aches, right? So now her bones ache, she's out of breath, her head aches, and she's just continuing to put off the news for Juliet. Finally, on line 70, the nurse reveals the news, right? She says, hie you hence to Friar Lawrence's cell. There stays a husband to make you a wife. So she says, go to Friar Lawrence's cell because Romeo is waiting to marry you there. So Juliet, of course, gets very excited at the end of this act, or at the end of the scene, and dashes off to go get ready to be married. In Scene 6, we're going to be at Friar Lawrence's cell, and we're first going to see Friar Lawrence and Romeo talking and waiting for the ladies to arrive. Now, just a word about what Friar is going to be talking about in this scene. Friar is very hesitant to marry Romeo and Juliet, and what he's going to be saying about his hesitancy is he's afraid that because of their marriage, something bad is going to happening. Okay, something bad is going to happen. However, he does it anyways. So here again, we're going to have a bit of foreshadowing. So just kind of pay attention to what he says there. I would like you to read all of scene 6. So go ahead and pause me now and read to the end of scene 6. Okay, so the very first thing that Friar says plays into that foreshadowing. He says, "So smile the heavens upon this holy act, then that after hours with sorrow chide us not." He's like, I hope the heavens smile on this and it doesn't lead to sorrow. And he has a very interesting line on line 9. He says, "These violent delights have violent ends," right? So violently being happy usually leads to some sort of violent end. Then he gives this advice to Romeo on line 14, "Therefore, love moderately." He's like, don't love so fiercely, right? Take it slow so that you don't meet your violent end. So a little bit of foreshadowing there. Then we see Juliet enter, and as soon as Juliet enters, Romeo and Juliet are all over themselves, and they're just talking about their love, and they're so excited and so happy. And the friar says, "Come," on line 35, come with me, and we will make short work, for by your leaves you shall not stay alone till the Holy Church incorporate two into one." He's like, come along, let's get you married, because I will not leave you two alone together until you are properly man and wife. And that, my friends, is the end of Act 2. I hope you have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. If you're enjoying this guided study, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, The Bear Bodkin Bard, so that you can be updated on all future posts of all Shakespeare's greatest works. And if you would like the next video, the link is in the description below. I bid you a good day.